Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Evolving Practice Podcast. I'm Dr. Sean Carey, and I'm with my co-host,
Dr. Bill Moss.
and we are so excited. We have a very special guest today. Our guest name is Eric Thompson. He's been an amazing mentor and teacher of ours. He's one of the leaders of the Modern Mystery School, and I was actually very fortunate. We just got to spend the weekend together because you came to Boston and taught some classes. So we taught. Ambassador Eric. He's given the title Ambassador because of the role he plays in the Mystery School. But he taught classes about building wealth, about releasing your negative emotions, and how to deal with the negative ego. And we just had such an amazing weekend. I don't even know how many people were there, but everybody was blown away by your teachings. So I'm really extra excited because we get to share some time again. So thank you for taking the time to join us.
No, thanks for having me. This is great. Great. How's everyone?
We're doing great. And one of our main motivations, I know you just taught these classes up in Boston, is Eric is going to be coming to Pennsylvania March 29th, which is a Saturday, to do a building wealth class, which we're going to get into that. He's going to be teaching right here in Pennsylvania, and Dr. Sean Carey is actually going to be joining as well. So the three of us will be together for the class. Eric will be teaching, and we're going to talk a little bit in depth about you in this podcast, about your journey into the work that you're doing now all around the world. I'd like to add, and what that class is going to be about and who it's for. So why don't you take us to the beginning, Eric?
Well,
how'd you get into
born? Well, I'm currently living in Brazil, but I started my journey, and I was born in California 61 years ago. And my life was, it took me to Brazil, it took me back to California, it took me various places. I had to start over 3 times in my life. I raised my kids as a single father. I've been at the bottom of the bottom, a few times in my life. And I had to kind of try to figure out, who I was. I really didn't know who I was, but I had achieved success during that time. So a lot of times we have this idea of what success is, and everyone watching here has an idea of what that might look like. For some people, it might be being famous. Some people, it might be a lot of money. Some people, it might be, just having a good relationship and a nice little house. And some people might be being alone, and being by themselves. And so everyone has their idea of what success looks like. But for me at the time, I went to, I had lived in Brazil for a few years, and, I had come back to the United States and started my career, let's say, as a runner. So I started off, sharpening pencils and getting supplies and getting lunch for bands at a recording studio. So do that for bands like Metallica and, other bands like this, Green Day and things like that. And eventually I worked my way up through that to the tape copy room and making transfers. And then I was an assistant engineer. And then I got called on to work on a B.B. King record, which won a Grammy. And just literally like a couple years before, I was making $5 an hour. But then I was able to kind of work my way up to that point. Then I ended up going to Hollywood and started working on big movies. I worked with Robin Williams. I worked with Al Pacino. I worked with Mel Gibson, Sharon Stone, a lot of different actors. I got to work with Farrah Fawcett. I got to work with some of those people. And it was a lot of fun. It was very much a world of ego. And, it was completely different type of world. So the ego started to go to my head. I started thinking like I was like them. And of course, when your ego, or the negative side of your ego, starts getting overdeveloped, you start thinking that you're special and that you're sometimes even beyond who you really are. So I had success. I had a nice car. I had the house. I had the great job. I had all these things, but I really didn't know how. I mean, yeah, I had worked my way to get it, but I kind of stumbled upon it. I don't know. Sometimes maybe, you may have stumbled upon money in your life, or stumbled upon love, or stumbled upon something else like that, joy, and then it's gone away, and then it's come back and gone away, but we don't really know how to repeat it. Well, I was living in Hollywood, and I was just getting like really involved with my ego. I wanted to run away. I was very angry at the government. I was angry at a lot of things that were going on, even though I had all these amazing things, all this success. Would be like, what are you complaining about? You're like, you're doing so well. Why are you so miserable? I was controlling. I was jealous. I was just, if things were going well, it was great, and you guys would have a good time with me. But then if things weren't going well, I was down and I was depressed. And so anyway, I wanted to run away, and pretty much I would have taken all my problems with me. I was married to a Brazilian at the time, and decided that I was going to go and live in Brazil and run away from Hollywood and sell my house and go open up I was going to open up a nightclub at that time. I thought that somehow if I had more ego, that somehow it would solve all the problems, that I just made one more zero in my account, then I'll be happy. Except, I went there and I found an investor for a nightclub and all that. I came back and I said, okay, found an investor, let's go. And she said, well, I really want to do my master's. I said, oh my God, how long is that going to take? 2 years. So I had to wait 2 years. I'm ready to go. I'm miserable. I'm depressed. I was just down. Imagine I just went down and down and down. And I got so bad after a year and a half that nobody could stand me anymore. I couldn't stand myself. I didn't want to be alone. I was always on the phone trying to call somebody to distract me from my life and my horrible life I was having that everybody was so jealous of, But I was miserable, so I wanted to run away. And so I grabbed the Holistic magazine because my mom had always liked these things. She had liked going to tarot and to Buddhism and to astrology and all these things, and kind of took me with her everywhere. But nothing really made me want to go deeper. I was an engineer. I was a sound engineer. That's what I did in Hollywood. So I was very logical. It's like yeah or no, pretty much, black or white. There was no middle ground. And so I didn't really believe in these things. I mean, I guess I did because I went a little bit with my mom, but it didn't mean much to me. So when I was going through this hard time, I grabbed one of these magazines and I flipped through it, and it led me to the life activation. And it was called the DNA activation at the time. And I did that. And then my eyes opened to a whole nother possibility because I wasn't feeling good. And all of a sudden I started feeling better. Yeah. And then a few days later, there was the Empower Thyself class, which is a 2-day class with an initiation where you start to learn about the totality of who you are as a divine being, as a being that's much more than just this physical body. Of course, I didn't really know what divine meant, but I started to understand that I was more than what I just thought I was, a physical body trying to survive in this world. And when I did that all within like 10 days, and my eyes opened to a whole other possibility. And then when I did that, I decided that I wanted to do more. I wanted to do the second initiation. I wanted to learn more about who I was and why was I feeling better? Why, if somebody put a crystal over here, did I feel amazing? It was just a crystal. What could possibly have happened? So I was asking, please teach me, show me how I can learn this so I can understand it. And I wanted to understand it from a scientific point of view, from an engineer point of view. So that started my awakening. But I can tell you I did a 180-degree turn because I was down. If you want to know I was 44 at the time. If you want to know somebody that was depressed, was down, and somebody that was not nice to be around, talk to anyone who knew me back at this time in 2007, 2006, 2008. That's when I had my awakening. So, but it changed my life so much that I wanted to leave the movie business not to open a nightclub, but to actually bring these, these healings or these teachings or these modalities that I was still trying to understand so that others could feel good again, kind of like I did. Because I swear to God, guys, it was like, it was night and day. As you know, you've seen transformations like that. I mean, if you knew me, you just, you would be like, oh my God, this guy changed completely.
Well, maybe you can give us the names of those people so we can interview them too.
You know what? It'd actually be really interesting to for sure. That would be actually a good thing.
It was funny. We got to Bill and I had we had became friends shortly before all this, maybe a year or two, but we got to really see each other go through this change. So
Right.
we were watching each other make all these changes, and I think it really.
Oh, you were really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and both of our lives just started really changing very quick. And
I was actually
the reflection of the other person.
I was with Sean the last night he partied and drank alcohol. Like that was.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow. And when was this?
8 or 9 years ago.
2016.
Yeah. I think it was 2016. And we had, I think the last alcohol I had was like a 15-year-old bottle of scotch because we were celebrating something. No, I didn't drink the whole bottle, but it was like a celebration thing.
Sure.
And that was the last time.
Yeah.
But we got to see each other go through that same process too, where it was just, on the outside it kind of looks like a different person, but on the inside you're like, oh wow, I feel like I'm on my path now. I feel like things are more clear than I've ever felt, and I know which way to go. Yeah,
it's huge. When I was going through this, of course, you get a little spiritually arrogant, or at least I did, in the beginning, because I was really feeling good and I wanted everyone to do it. So I'm like, come on, guys, you got to do this. You got to try this. And calm down. It's like you just discovered something amazing and you want everyone to know. And they're just like, what's happening? It's not like that. You're freaking out. And so I did have people like my sister, she she would be like, wow, okay, you think you're so special and all that kind of thing. She knows we've talked about this, and you think you're so special. And then literally, I don't remember how many years ago, she called me and she said, Eric, I want to ask you if you would celebrate our marriage, if you would marry me and Bob. And I said, wow. Yeah, of course. She says, because you're the most loving, most spiritual person that I know. And I thought,
that's awesome.
Because I remember earlier. Yeah. I was this, spiritually arrogant person, which I probably came across as that. But it was my excitement for what change I had experienced. It wasn't about I felt better than anybody. It was just like, I go, what are you doing? Yeah. It made such a huge difference in my life that, I want everyone to learn about it, which is what I do now. I just kind of go around and bring teachings to people and help them to be able to awaken from whatever state, from wherever they are to where they want to get, whatever that may be, whether it's their sleep and then they want to wake up, or they're already awakened and they want, grow a little bit more.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about that 180 that you kind of went through, and also the perception of you're waking up, you're feeling so great, you're excited about this, and also you took some big jumps as far as career moves and going from, I guess that nightclub never happened.
No. Well, I have a spiritual nightclub now. It's called Mystery School. So the first thing I actually did was this crystal healing, right? And that was the first thing, and it led me to the DNA activation, because I felt so good from the crystal healing that he said, hey, I'll teach you this. And the engineer part of me wanted to know. So he sent me to a place called the White Lotus, which was in Los Angeles. It's where the Mystery School was at that time. And I went there and I did the DNA activation, or now it's known as the life activation, and then the Empower Thyself 3 days later. And of course, during that time, from when I first did that first healing, I didn't want to listen to the radio anymore. I didn't want to listen to TV anymore. You guys probably know this feeling. I asked him to recommend some books, and of course he recommended me some. They were non-initiate books at the time. I mean, there was some, but it was more mainstream stuff like Eckhart Tolle and Wayne Dyer and things, Deepak Chopra, things like that. So I just started reading everything. I did not leave my room. I can't tell you for how long. And everything would be listening to some, something on tape, some book on tape, and just going deeper and deeper. But the whole time, immediately I started doing these mystery school classes. And so I just wanted to do everything that was coming up. So I just, literally just say, what's next here? I want to do it. Because, it doesn't really make sense to you why you would do certain classes, because you don't know what they are. I mean, you don't know what, some of these things are. I don't know what sacred geometry is at this point. I don't know what astral travel is. I don't know what journeys of the spirit is. All I know is that I felt good and I wanted to know more. So then I just started doing whatever was suggested. And of course, there's this part where you start thinking, well, somebody must know better than me. There is a lineage of people that walked before me, and they walked this path, like Da Vinci and Carl Jung and Shakespeare and Winston Churchill. So they did great things with their life. So if I just follow in the same path that they did, good things are probably going to happen to me, versus me just wanting to read a few books with no direction. It'd be kind of like wanting to learn piano on my own. I could learn on my own. I could get a piano. I could start getting some books, and I could start doing that. Or I could get a piano teacher that's good and knows the shortcuts and knows how to help me play quickly. And so that's the way I saw it as, thank God I did that, because if not, I'd probably would still be, searching all over, like I see a lot of people doing in the New Age movement. I mean, it means well and all that, but sometimes you just don't, since there's no path, you just doing whatever you think, but then you realize, oh, I don't want to go that way, but you've wasted a year doing it. You know what I'm saying? That's what started that. And then, of course, I started to not be interested anymore in working, in the movie business. It just wasn't filling my soul. So, like, if I did a life activation and it helped somebody, they're like, thank you so much. I feel so great. I thought, this is really great. This is much more fulfilling than working with, some actor that I'm a big fan of. Yeah, that was great, but it was, that's not really changing the world. It wasn't really changing the lives of people through watching, 300. It's not really change your life in that way that something like the mystery school could do. So I started doing that. Of course, I was judged. People would say, what are you, stupid? You're going to give up this business and go work somewhere. Universal was talking to me about building a room for me so I could go work there. And, things like that. I mean, I was in discussions and I gave all of that up to, follow the path of knowing myself and wanting to help others, get out of this hole. So that's pretty kind of what happened. And, I just never looked back.
But what a beautiful journey it's been, and where it's led you to. For me, it was like I felt a lot of sacrifice too with when I got on this. I was more geared towards, I was going in a direction where I'd be like an international teacher in chiropractic, or was going to be on the board of a chiropractic college. And my mentors and all my friends were doing that work, and I was very much kind of getting groomed for it, which was something that I was choosing and wanted. But then once I started doing this path, it was like, there's exactly what you're talking about. There's a level of goodness, like just like the level of impact that I was having was just so much greater. And even though it doesn't necessarily look like that on the outside, because you're working with one soul at a time, really, it's about the soul, but that person changes and it breaks the family pattern. And it's just the ripple effect it has is so massive. And, the feeling that you get when you help somebody in that way and that person becomes free. And it's just, there's nothing like it.
I agree.
Even if somebody doesn't understand it from the outside, like from the inside, like, it's such a gift to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, I think, that you can't read about it.
Yeah.
You need to have the direct experience. And once you've had that direct experience, nobody can take that away from you, because you've had it. And maybe you can't explain it, you can't put it into words, but there's an inner knowing.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps you moving forward. And then, of course, you're going to have some doubts, and you take a step back. And then you go, no, this is great. This is real. And then you move forward. and then maybe there's a doubt, and you go back, and it's just kind of
Mm.
doing this, but you keep moving forward, and eventually
Yeah.
you progress, and you get beyond wherever it is that you were. And to me, that's like a huge victory.
No, I love that. I feel like one of the best, understandings of teaching is the idea that, like leaning on direct experience, right? We so often want to base it on another person's data or research or opinion instead of like what is the experience in the forefront. And I feel like Sean and I in the profession we also work in chiropractic is very close and to that, where it survived because of people's experience directly with it. But we all forget, and that's like such a great reminder because I think that's why we want to have you come teach, is the idea that so much of people's success is surrounding like other people's version of that, and we don't connect with the moments that we actually experience in our own life. And it sounds like you were like, I don't know what this is, but I'm successful right now in becoming myself, right?
Yes. Yeah. And you don't even know what that is because, I saw this guy on the podcast, and he literally asked the person, he says, "Who are you?" And the guy says, "Oh, I'm Sean." He's like, "No, that's what your name is." He said, "Well, I'm this." He said, "No, that's what you are. Who are you?" And the guy went, "You got me. I never really thought about that." And if you ask yourself that, if you're sitting there watching this, ask yourself, who are you? Who am I? Because you might not have an answer. And if you don't have an answer, then maybe it's time to start looking for an answer, because how do we live our life and not know who we are? I mean, at least partially, right? Maybe you don't know yourself 100%, but it would be nice to know myself 70, 80%, so I'm not reacting to, that are out of my control, or that would be in my control if I knew who I was, But I thought it was really interesting because we don't ask these questions. Were you ever asked that, you guys, in school? Who are you?
No.
They don't ask you, who are you? They say, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
But they don't ask you, who are you? I mean, we don't ever look at that. And in the mystery school, we always look at, who am I? And another one that's really big is, what's my purpose? And so, those are two. There's a few more that we ask, but those are like big questions. And if you don't know, I mean, it's time to start looking. I can tell you, I didn't know who I was, and when that caused all of my suffering. All of it. Because it came from a lack of knowing, and everything that you've done that's caused you pain is usually because you have a lack of awareness. Not aware, so you do things you shouldn't do, or that you don't know you shouldn't do, and you think that's just being human. And that's what I did. I thought I was just being human, but acting, and that's not very. It's not a fun way to be. It's very roller coaster, Isn't it more smooth though, guys? For you guys too?
Say that again?
More smooth now, right? Your ride, your journey.
Absolutely.
It's not that we don't have no ups and downs. We have ups and downs, but they're like this now. They're not like
and usually the perspective, the brakes kind of get activated quicker to like look at the situation. There's you put the brakes on and see what's going on so much faster before you're like, where am I? Right? Then that question how did I get here?
I was thinking about the same thing. I was going to say that for me, it feels like instead of being way off track, like it's just you get 5 degrees off track, and then there's that course correction. You're not going doing 180 in the wrong direction.
And you correct it right away, because if you don't, then that even 1 degree will take you way off down there. If you keep on it too long. So that's one of the things I've noticed, is that with the tools that we get, we're able to correct that 1 degree or 2 degrees, whatever, and bring it back on. And then you just keep going. And you get off a little bit, and then you bring it back. Versus just going off, you're so far off, and then it's really hard to get back.
Yeah.
You know, but it's all possible. Just have to have the desire to want to, you know, to grow and progress and change. And if you want to change, you can do it. It's never easy,
Right.
but it's not easy to not grow. Worse to not change, because most people, they need to take medicine, or they're drinking something or smoking something, or they need to take a trip or go buy something to dull the pain. And would it be nice to have a life that you don't need to take a vacation from?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's just
Absolutely.
it's just a whole different world.
I think one of the areas where a lot of people are suffering right now too is this relationship with money. And you know, before doing this, Bill and I, like, we both share this love for business, and we've you know, so we've studied marketing and sales and business structure and management, and like we've been doing that for years. We've had many coaches and learned a lot of great things, and I can't even tell you how many books and podcasts and that type of thing that we've done, and you know, networking and that type of thing out of necessity, because we had to do it for our work. But and there's also just an enjoyment and love for it. But one area where I see people have so much pain is in regards to money. Like, we live in this world where we need money, and it becomes such a limitation for people. And the mystery school, the class with you, is really the maybe the only place I've experienced teachings about wealth that was not that was more divine based. Like, it wasn't coming from the ego, it wasn't coming from greed, it wasn't coming from money's bad and dirty and we shouldn't have it. And there's just a really balanced way that you present it to help somebody get in a better relationship with money, and a better flow with money. Like, no matter where that person is or what their job is, it's like healing that gap between them and a healthy money relationship, in a way that they're not making money God, they're not making poverty God, they're not making lack God. It's just they can have it be in the right place so that things can flow better for them.
Yeah.
Maybe you could speak a bit about that, if you would, about how kind of that evolved for you.
Yeah, well, you know, I had stumbled upon money, like I told you. I did work my way into a pretty decent job, but I didn't understand. And that's the thing, is most people don't understand money.
Yeah.
We were never really taught about money. If we were taught anything, it was how to balance a checkbook. That's pretty much it. And so we never learned about what is money. You know, is it energy? Is it, you know, what is it? You know, and it really is, it's an amplifier. And money is an amplifier, and basically will allow you to express your thoughts into manifestation. So you have a lot of things that you want to do, right? And so let's suppose you really like art and paintings and things like that. Well, if you have money, you're able to express that love of art and paintings into reality. But what happens is, because you don't have money, you never get to express what you feel inside. And so what you do is you only buy, instead of buying what you want, you buy what you can afford. And so we live within limits and think, well, okay, so I can afford this. And then you live accordingly to that. So you don't live in the house that you want. You live in the house that you can afford. You don't drive the car that you really want. You drive the car that you can afford. So how can you actually start to increase your flow? Well, you need to understand what that is. And if you don't understand it, because it's literally like if you have a basket and that's your container of what you can hold. So basically what I can spend fits in this basket. It's all according to what I can do right now. Well, I got to figure out a way to expand that basket so I can fit more into it. And of course, when I'm talking about basket, you know, I'm talking about our container. So this applies not just to money. This applies to everything in your life. So if you're only capable of having this much love, then that's the amount of love that you can give and the amount that you can receive. But if you can expand your container to be more, then you can have more joy, you can have more love, you can have more compassion, you can have more abundance of all the things that you really want. But most of us don't learn that. We learn, okay, so how can I cut back? How can I trim to fit in here? We don't really learn about flow. And so we need to understand about flow so that I can express what I feel inside through money. Right? That's just some of the things. So the problem is it's not really the lack of money. It's what's missing is the lack of understanding of money.
Yeah.
So you can get out of this lack. That's what we need to understand. And it's all tied together. So, yeah.
Cool.
Love it.
So, yeah, well, Sean's probably fresher with the class, but that is a very different way of looking at money. That's, I think, first and foremost, it's like this class is not going to be directly about how to, store away in your 401k, put away for retirement and be, quote, financially successful. There's a million books and programs and other people's opinions of what that is. So beyond the money factor, this class is called Building Wealth. Can you tell us a little bit more about what wealth is and how it's influenced by kind of the container you were talking about?
Okay, well, I would say, so money, wealth, abundance, all this, it's really not about earning. So it's not about how to figure out how can I, earn more. I mean, you really couldn't work enough hours for you to become, have $20 million. It's like if you're a janitor, hard time doing that. And if it was just about hard work, mothers would be the richest people in the world. They really would, because they work hard.
Right.
And so, but it's really what it is about being in a flow. Okay, so either things are, and I know it sounds really simple, but there's a saying, as above, so below, as within, so without. And these are Hermetics. And what it means is that what is happening in the physical world is happening in the spiritual world. What's happening above is happening down here. So it's about us understanding, how can I be in a flow? So one example I like to give is that if money is a river, okay, most people, they'll take a bucket or their little basket, like I said, and they'll take it and they'll go down to the river and they'll get a little bit and then they'll come back if they want and they'll, dump it there. And then they're good for a little while. Then they go back to the river and then they do that, right? Because where the river is where the flow is. But what you're saying then is you're separate from the flow. You're separate from, I need to go over there. What I want to teach you and show you is how to be in the flow. So you don't want to take the money out of the river. Right. You don't want to take the abundance out of the river. You don't want to take the love out of the river. You don't want to take the joy out of the river. All of these things, you need to figure out how to get into the flow where all those things are. And if you're into the flow where those things are, they're going to flow abundantly through you, via you. And this is about flow. And this makes all the difference in the world. We are not separate from these things. So when we can understand this, it's a game changer, right? But most people, we don't think about that. We think, oh, I'm here, and then I go there. Then I come back. So you're separate. And we can't be separate from it. We have to figure out how to get into the flow. Because think of like electricity. If you think of a pipe, just think of a pipe. If your pipes are clogged, there's going to be no flow. So your water's not going to turn on. So you have to call a plumber for the plumber to come and unclog your pipes so that flow happens again. Right? That's what we do. But why don't we unclog our pipes now? We don't know how. So we think, oh, it's about me reading one more book and then I'm going to know and then I'm going to apply this technique and it's about this crypto or this mutual fund. It's not about that, because come and go all the time. But flow is always going to be there and you can apply it to anything. You can Warren Buffett understands flow. People like this, they understand flow. They're not just, oh, I made $1 million off of, some crypto thing that just could away tomorrow because they choose the wrong thing. It's about understanding that. So if you can understand this, it can change everything. And I used to work in the music business, like I told you, and we used to do some jingles, which is music for the California lottery. And they were saying some statistics like 90-something% of the people who won the lottery went bankrupt within 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the lack of money that makes people poor.
Yeah.
Just throwing more money at something where there's peaks isn't going to help it. A broke person will figure out a way to continue broke. So you have to learn how to change that so that you can change it and change your flow. We need to get into the flow, basically, guys.
Yeah.
It was so cool this past weekend because I was in the back of the room when you were teaching the class. So I got to, I don't know how many students there were, maybe like 42 or something around that. And there were these different times when you were teaching, and it was just like you could see 42 different light bulbs going off. Like everybody's wheels just started turning. Like the energy in the room was just so different. People were just starting to shift their mind with how they were thinking about different things. Like you're talking about, like these light bulbs were going off, and like people were shifting like in the moment as far as how they were gonna make their financial situation better, but not through like not through this way that they have to go and like starve themselves and only eat beans and rice and that type of thing. It was like getting their mind to move in a direction that's actually going to help them with their flow. And I think it's so cool because whatever your relationship with money has been up to this point in your life, like we live in this world that is pretty cool. Like, there's so many cool things we want to go and see and experience, and places, there's almost too many places for us to even go to. Like if you took a plane every day to a different place, you wouldn't really run out of places. If we don't have that healthy relationship with money, like you're gonna miss out on a lot of good life experience. And when here we talk a lot about like soul and spirit, but our soul and spirit didn't want to just experience this like squished version of life, if you will. Like it just so much goes against our divine nature, I think, to like we really are expansive beings.
Yeah, I think most people would agree that are probably listening to this that you didn't come here to survive.
No,
you came here to thrive. So if you can figure out a way to thrive, then you can start to live. I used to always think, live the life of your dreams. It just sounds so like unreal and like possible, but whatever your dream is, we should be living our dream. You can live your dream. No, I can't because I have this. No, I have kids. No, I have that. So then you can't. There are many things that are blocking us from living our dreams, and it all comes from a lack of not knowing. So if you don't know how to do certain things, then you will continue to not know how to do certain things. It's very simple. So you can't predict your financial future if you don't know. So you have to try to figure out how to know, and know is know thyself, which is the motto of mystery schools since the beginning of time. Know thyself. So it's not just about learning about money. It's not just about learning about whatever the next thing you want to learn about. It's knowing yourself, because you are all of these different things. You're all these different of this amazing being that you are. We're so distracted by things that we've just kind of given up on that. And it's an amazing journey, but you just have to stop for a minute, and you have to make some sort of sacrifice, whether it be money or time, to invest, to come, to spend the time to learn. But it's a choice. It's all a choice of, if we want to do it, if we want to learn, and you can do it. I believe that.
I think I took the class and it was summer of 2019. So it'll be like 6 years. I haven't revisited my notes, but the one word that jumps out, when I look back, is this idea of clarity, and how, people do have that desire to like be abundant. Like it's kind of written within, right? Is to express this abundance. And I love how you said it's almost like we have this limiter on, like it's an amplifier. So if you're like, oh, I want to amplify this beauty and this joy and this goodness, well, money can also assist somebody in making that happen in a very positive way, right? Sometimes people get attached with the negative, but I don't know if the class wraps up the same way it does with a like a letter. Is that still?
Yeah.
I don't want to. But what I want to say is, I received a letter from myself years down the line, and I had accomplished and had been doing everything on that list. That I kind of sowed in that desire, and I still have it in my closet, right where it's there. And I think what I'm trying to say is the clarity of the connected, of like the kind of the deeper rooted why do you want to express who you are, really came out in that class. Because it's like we all get like why, that's why money's so attractive. It's why people want to be financially stable, because they want to be abundant in their expression. And I think I'm just having that moment that like that was the gap that happened, that was kind of bridged in this class for myself, where Sean and I had that business acumen that was like, oh, I want to be successful financially, because that's what people in our profession or any profession do, and that's how you have quote status. But it was so much more of connecting with the deeper essence of who we are and why that abundance is important to each individual. So I'm excited to experience it again.
I know. I'm excited too. It's nice, like Sean said, when you see the light bulbs going off and people are like, oh my God, like my daughter-in-law, she did the class, and she literally within like a couple days, she had already decided she wanted to leave her job, and she wanted to open up a school. And her and her sister actually opened up a Waldorf school.
Wow.
Amazing.
Shortly after, because she was like,
wow,
I want to change my life, and I'm going to do that. And she took her abundance from here to here, just like immediately. So if you want to take action, it's about taking action now. You don't need to wait to do anything. It's just literally take action and change it. But you have to have a desire to want to change. So if you don't want more abundance, then it's not the place for you. But if you do, and it really makes a big difference that if you want to see, because you have a will, and your will wants to do certain things. And we say in the mystery school, it's by will alone I put my mind in motion, which means it's my will that puts things in motion, then my mind will follow what my will is. But most of us, unfortunately, we live from what my mind tells me or what I can afford sets my will in motion. So because I can't afford it, I can't have the house I want. Because I can't afford it, I can't have the car I want. So it's the other way around, which means you're basically a slave to your mind. And now it's time to change and stop being a slave now. And it's literally about taking action. So,
and it comes through so clearly in that class too. And one thing the class isn't, like my experience with different maybe more new age type relationships with money before, like the energy of money was like goal setting, or you visualize, and like that really wasn't. It's not that either of those things are bad. It's just that wasn't. This class is so much deeper, and it's really about, to me, it's like that aligning with the flow of money, healing the relationship with money, so that your subconscious isn't sabotaging you trying to get money.
Exactly.
And then having your mind set forward to the state of expansion instead of limitation, and like all these aspects of your being it's almost like they're getting rewired and upgraded in this process to just kind of move in a new way. To move more in alignment with that, not just like something that you just have to force yourself to squeeze really hard and focus on that vision of what you want, but at the same time there's like, oh, it'll never work out, like it's just a completely different experience as far as the teachings and the energy behind it. Like the way you teach it and the energy behind it is just absolutely awesome. Like when we had that class, I've taken it twice with you, and there's been a lot of financially successful people there, but like everybody was having takeaways. So I think it's if somebody's even a little bit interested in the mystery school, this is an amazing thing to take, because no matter who you are, like having a better relationship with money and more flow will really benefit this life and this human experience that we share.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because we're talking about metaphysics, and meta would be physical, would be here physics, and meta is above. So we're going back to archetypes. So it's back at the program. So, like if you print out something on Word and it doesn't, the paper shows up and it's got an error on it, most of us will, cross out that error and hit print again, and then it comes out with the error again, because the meta or the archetype has the error that's causing it to keep repeating. So if you have certain patterns that are repeating in your life, you got to get back up to the metaphysics of it, or the program, so that you can reprogram that part, so that when you hit print, it comes out without the error. And that's what we're doing. We're going back to the origin, back to that. So you really need a system. You go back to the origin of it, instead of just healing the symptom. You're back and changing the programming, so you can start creating a new reality.
So good. Yeah. I've even had these conversations recently. Like I have a couple of my clients are like financial planners, and some of them started chiropractic, and they started to dabble into the energetic world. And one of my friends / clients, he's like wanted to bridge this gap. He's a financial planner. He's worked in that for years, and he's like, I think in his experience of there's more to this world, he's like, there's more to money that I don't know about. There's more to energy and abundance that I don't fully understand. And I want to start bridging that gap. And I remember him telling me about this a year ago. So he was one of the first persons I told about this class, because I was like, I've seen your desire to bridge this gap. And there's so many people that can be helped by that, because, I truly believe we're not meant to live in an internal state like you described before. Like, who the heck am I? And why is what I'm feeling inside, why am I not bringing it out, to show the world my individual gifts? And that's such a good reminder, like how when we find our individual gifts, it's always good to amplify those things into the world, because that's how we make such a much more impactful world. So absolutely. I personally already can see, just by this conversation, like how deep this class can go for people, and really help in a really positive way. Because I think people are afraid of money too, right? Is this like, if I have a lot, it's a bad thing, and it corrupts people. It turns them to quote bad. So
yeah, definitely. There's it's interesting you said about the financial planner. There's a guy named Rick, and you'll probably have his testimonial up on your site, but he's a financial planner too.
Is he from Pennsylvania, Rick?
Yeah.
I bet he'll be there too.
Check out his testimonial, because he had been a financial planner. He says in his testimonial for 20 years or whatever, and what he learned in there was able to actually help and shift a lot as to how he helps people. So
cool.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's one. I'm going to put the link. When this episode drops, I'll have it on YouTube and Apple, iTunes, all the. We'll have a link to the page for the class, and there's a picture of my test. There's my testimonials in there too.
There is.
Me and Lauren. We look like babies. We were in a. Well, she was pregnant.
Oh, okay.
So that was an expansion. One expansion of my life. And fun fact now, I didn't tell you this, Eric, but she's pregnant now too.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Yeah. So we only take this class when we're expecting.
When you're yeah. So it definitely causes abundance, because there's some fruit of this class, right? So good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good.
Yeah.
Well, be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing experience to have you and your energy in Pennsylvania, and it's just I can't stress enough how helpful this class is to have with you. Like we talk a lot about health on the show. That's kind of our focus is healing, But if so much stress and so many like anxiety and just health issues come from our relationship with money. I think it's just one of those foundational relationships of being a human that if it's causing suffering, it's going to show up in different areas. So
Absolutely.
this is something that it's not like I think that sometimes people talk about money like there's this perception that they might have. It's just like being super fancy. Like people have all these different ways that they look down on money. That's how I was basically raised anyway.
Yeah.
But it's really like it's something that can just help your life to function so much better, open up opportunities for you, take away stress, like if you can get this piece dialed in. So, and I don't know anybody better at teaching this class than you. I mean, Sovereign Systems Dave, but he doesn't teach it anymore. So he
that's true.
Right to you.
Are you saying he's second best? Come on, Sean.
No,
I'll take second best to him.
He's the current best. You can't compare like.
He's amazing. If anyone gets a chance to do a class with him, he could give a class on water, and I would be there. It's just amazing. So much knowledge, so much mastery of everything. It'd be amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. Well, we're looking forward to having you March 29th. We'll put all the information in these details. And I think we might even do another episode along the way, kind of leading up to that. So
sounds good.
Yeah, we are grateful for the work that you're doing, not just with us directly, but all around the world, to help people become more of themselves and experience abundance in multiple aspects of their life. So keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you so much, Eric, and thanks for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. It was great talking with you. All right, everybody, take care. All right, good night.